It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we cover the latest property news every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify and Apple, and of course wherever you get your podcast from. It is a Thursday morning, December the 28th. I know it's hard to kind of keep up, isn't it? What is the day today? Where am I on the calendar? But in a moment, we are going to take you back to the start of this year when we spoke to the Master Builders QLD Association, because 2023 hasn't been an easy year for the builders, and there will be some of you not in your new home possibly as a result of a builder not making it through 2023, which is a casualty business sector for the year. And that has a lot of tentacles in terms of all of the other trades who lose money, which affects all of their suppliers, all of their customer base, of course. So it has been an ongoing problem for 2023. It's probably likely to continue into 2024. So we will bring that to you in just a moment, which is part of our summer series as we look back across this very busy year for 2023. And this year it was also highlighted just how many empty homes there are across Australia. We have a shortage of homes, of course, but we now know that there are over 1 million homes sitting empty, gathering dust. And I guess at this time of the year, at least over the summer, the holiday homes have people in them. And Christmas is often a time when we are away from home, we're in other locations, and we look at these locations and say, hey, I wouldn't mind living here, which is very helpful for the real estate industry because it does fuel the property market.
Thank you for all your support this year. We look forward to 2024 with more real estate stories and more property news. Have a great break.
Coming up this morning, we are talking with Paul Bidwell, the CEO from Master Builders Queensland, and going to be looking at new builds, renos, and the stress right now of being a builder. It's not an easy time right now for the building industry as a whole. There are builders going to the wall, others are just holding on by the skin of their teeth, and then of course there are people that are caught up with having their homes built, and they're right in the middle of that bad situation when a builder goes into receivership. So we'll be discussing all of that coming up in just a moment.
You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
You lived in the house from 1994 to 2012, I think, and that is when it was sold.
We have been looking for an investment for a little while, me and my partner, and it was just brought back a lot of memories. It was a bit crazy, actually.
And your parents were there on auction day last Saturday.
Yeah, so my parents bought it back in, I think, 1993. I grew up there my whole life. And then, what a coincidence.
And as my late mother would always say, God only made so many beaches, the population will continue to grow. And obviously the best locations to invest or live in Sydney.
Well, your mother was absolutely right on that point, because properties in the east, as you say, they're tightly held. It's a massive frustration to buyers when listings are in such short supply.
Yeah, absolutely. The tight supply in the eastern suburbs, the limited supply, absolutely.
We talk with leading property commentators with analysis, predictions, forecasts, and what's trending every morning only on the Real Estate Breakfast.
Well, building is in the middle of everything that is going on in the real estate market right now with new builds, renos, you name it. The poor old builder, they are under the pump. And to gauge what is happening in Queensland, we are joined this morning by Paul Bidwell, who is the CEO of the Queensland Master Builders Association there. And g'day, Paul. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thanks, Craig. Pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you on. And yes, as mentioned, the builders are a little bit under the pump. And last year there was this trend downwards in the building approvals. But interestingly, approvals for houses still remain above pre-COVID levels.
That's very true. But you have to bear in mind that pre-COVID, so 2019, in Queensland and other parts of the country, we were looking down the barrel of an absolute disaster. There was almost very, very little demand for new construction. We're very grateful that we're well above those levels at the moment. But if you look at most recent data, which is November 2022, it's about 35,000 building approvals in Queensland. That's still 20% below where we were in November 21. So we are concerned that the demand for new building, for new houses, is going to fall during 2023. And our forecast for this year is for that to happen in terms of commencements.
It's a lot for you to, I guess, articulate, contemplate on how you deal with your members, because this is going to be quite a pressing, quite a trying time for your members, right?
That's right. So there are a lot of builders are still have a pipeline of work that started last year, and they're still dealing with the challenges of getting the skilled labour they need and getting the materials at the prices they want, and overlay that with, where is the next job coming from? It is very challenging. It will be a very challenging year.
Yeah, because, there's a lot of people listening to the podcast that will be thinking, well, I'd really like to get my build underway, but there's this hesitation that a lot of people looking to build are currently sitting on that ledge, just not quite moving off it. So let's just come back to some of these approvals, because on one hand, we're saying that approvals for houses are still remaining above pre-COVID levels, but that construction productivity, as you say, it is down.
That's right. And we don't see the productivity piece starting to improve until 2024. Most builders have got the costs covered. One of the biggest problems that the industry has is that most contracts that are signed are fixed price, fixed term. So I will build you this house at this price. And if they don't deliver, then you've got a very unhappy client. And there are all sorts of legal ramifications to come out of that. But what we have seen is, as a result of that, the cost pressure, the prices have gone up, but the builder's unable to pass that along, that we've had a number of builders in Queensland that have gone to the wall. One only a couple of weeks ago, LDC, a fairly big builder in Queensland, and those people that have got contracts with LDC will be in a world of pain, really. They'll be looking at, well, what's going to happen. They've got insurance, but it is going to cause a whole lot of grief.
Inflation, of course, it has been a bit of a runaway ticket item for last year. We're wanting to see that completely flatten out. And I guess for somebody in your position, that can't come soon enough.
Absolutely. That when we look at the loan approvals, they have slumped significantly. That is really off the back of those rate rises. Part of it is tied to what people predict is going to happen to property values. Valuations come into the whole equation. If you haven't got a valuation that supports the building contract price, then the lenders get very nervous. In fact, we've had a lot of cases where the contracts have fallen over as a result. So what we need is a rising property market, or certainly not a falling property market, but we want interest rates to go down. And those two in combination will see demand for new construction. It will turn. And in the longer term, we've still in Queensland got strong population growth. The impact of the Olympics is going to start to take effect in the next couple of years. There's still an enormous demand for rental housing right across the state. It's difficult to comprehend, why do we have falling demand for new construction when we've still got a chronic shortage of rental housing? A lot of the answer to that is around the interest rates. So investors will be thinking, well, the way interest rates are going, is it worth the investment? And I think once we get some clarity that the rate rises have slowed or hopefully stopped, I assume that the investors will flood back into the market.
renos, of course, we know that renos have come back. You've got the developers that have decided not to do some of these major renos that they undertake. That's a bit of a problem.
Very true. But when you say they've fallen back, that is true, but from a very elevated level. So renovation market is still quite strong. Just when COVID hit, people were locked up, not so much in Queensland, but compared to the other states, but still people were sitting at home thinking, well, I'm going to get myself a new deck, or I'm going to do some sort of renovation. And builders were flooded with work as a result. And then we had Home Builder, which was an enormous stimulus for new homes as well as for renovations. So the builders were swamped with work. And then we had the floods, the impact of the floods, which is 12 months ago. It's been a very almost unique set of circumstances where you've got demand is falling, but the underlying demand is still strong. And you've still got challenging issues around the supply of materials and the supply of the skills to do the building.
Yes, I just want to pick up on that because you mentioned global warming, and of course these are dangerous flooding bombs that you've experienced there in Queensland. They're just added pressures because it's just a matter of time before another one of these hits. How do you talk through all of the ramifications there with your members who, as we've already said, they're already stressed, trying to keep on top of everything else, and then next minute you've got a water bomb?
That's very true. And we saw it play out in November, the Halloween hailstorm in the western corridor of Brisbane, so at around Springfield. There were thousands of homes lost their roofs. There were no roofing contractors to be got because they were all busy doing the home builder new builds and renovations. And we saw the cost of roofing go through the roof because the insurance companies were under pressure to fix those homes that had been damaged. And so it's a bit like Uber pricing. There was a surge charge that impacted right across the state. In fact, it had implications to the southern states because there were some big hailstorms in Canberra and in the southern part of New South Wales about the same time. And we're still dealing with the flooding that took place in southeast Queensland in February last year. In fact, the government, to your point about what can be done, the state government has a resilience program in play at the moment where homeowners can apply for a range of assistance measures. The most brutal, they can have their property purchased. If they're sitting in the floodplain, it's just a matter of when this is going to happen again, then they're able to sell their property and move on, hopefully, to somewhere where they don't deal with the same issues.
All right, well, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, Paul, for coming on to the Real Estate Podcast this morning. I wish you all the very best of luck. It's not an easy position that you are in there with the Queensland Master Builders, so good luck for 2023, and no doubt we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Craig. My pleasure.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.